इस्लाम एट अ ग्लास इज ब्रॉट टू यू बाय अमेरिका में मुसलमानों की नुमाइंदा तंजीम इस्लामिक सर्कल ऑफ नॉर्थ अमेरिका समाजी शऊर से आगाही हो या इस्लामी तर्ज जिंदगी का दर्स इक्ना ने हमेशा अपना मौसर किरदार अदा किया। कार खैर में हमारा साथ दीजिए। फ़ोन 718-658-1199।
अस्सलामु अलैकुम वरहमतुल्लाहि वबरकातुह। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि अहदा वस्सलातु वस्सलामु अला नबिय्य बअदा। Dear viewers, today's topic is about women rights in Islam as defined in Islam. In the middle of the 6th century, a person who rose in Arabia claimed that he receives revelations from Allah, and based on that revelations he gives this message to mankind, which we remember as Islam. And he at that time defined much of the terms and much of the talk that is very common today. These subjects have been discussed and were taught by the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the 6th century. At that time, the world was in a state of darkness all around him, even in far off places, even in places that were the most so-called civilized societies of that time. To name a couple, the Roman civilization and the Persian civilization in the east and west of where this message of Islam was being propagated by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he defined, as I said, the things which are in common like talk of the day these days, like human rights, like the rights of women. There was no talk of that around the world at that time when he defined those things according to the instructions of Allah, nothing from himself, but as our Creator told us that these are the rights of human being, how they should be treated, and also what our topic is today, the rights of women. The religions that were existing at that time have a very disgusting view about women, and some of that still prevails in their books. Some of that also in the books that they regard as the revealed religion. But we as Muslims believe that there has been a lot of corruption in the original message, so that the message has introduction of some things from men, which ended up being such containing such things which I just mentioned to you about women, for example. Women, to sum it up, those religions or even the philosophies of that time, or even older religions, they still exist today, and some of them are major religions of the world even today. So woman is described as if she is like a curse to humanity. She is described as someone who is the originator of the sin that resulted, for example, in the throwing out from the paradise or Jannah of Adam and herself, his wife Eve. So they attribute this sin to her, to woman, that it was because of woman that the major crime at the beginning of humanity was was done, and then later on also she is responsible for majority of the problems of the mankind. That's how it is mentioned. But Quran and the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam defines it in a completely different way. For example, this particular incident that is shared by various Abrahamic religions and some other religions as well, about the Adam and Eve after their creation when they were living in Jannah. Quran says that they were both, the shaitan whispered into the ears of both, and with his whispering and with his encouragement, they did what they did, and that resulted in a sin. Because of that, they have to leave the living of Jannah. So Quran, whenever talked about this incident, it never talks about in a singular form that he's talking to Adam or he's talking to Eve. No, he's talking to both of them. So that both of them were misguided by shaitan. And then both of them were told by Allah to say the famous dua, Allahumma inni Rabbana zalamna anfusana wa illam taghfir lana wa tarhamna lanakunanna min al-khasirin. Allah teach them this dua, and then they make this dua, and Allah forgive their sins. But He said that you will live from now on in this dunya. You will descend from Jannah to this dunya for a known period of time, and then you will be responsible for what you did in that dunya. So all that story. So the basic thing I want to get across is that Quran never blames Eve or Hawa for instigating this problem, and Quran never degrades woman in this world, and it in all its teachings elevates its position. It was nowhere known into the world until Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was nowhere existing in the world. The previous messengers must have given the similar message, but it got deformed and lost until Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with a refresh, message, and then that message is going to continue to exist till the end of the time. No one is going to bring any new message. So that message contained the exact definition of what woman is, what is her right, what is her status. I want to share with you something from my experience that I had in the US, in Houston actually. There are 3 points that I want to make from that one environment that I was involved in a teaching class in Houston for the Houston Police Academy. So every month there used to be like 35 officers of Houston Police Department would come to the Islamic Center. That is after 9/11, when they started thinking that we need to know about Islam because there will be more engagement with the Muslims for various reasons, and some not very good reasons. But anyway, they wanted to learn about Islam, so we also thought this is an opportunity to tell them what really we believe in. So in that class, they used to stay with us for many hours. So I used to teach this part of that class. Then there was another person, and then there was a sister who was an American revert to Islam sister, and she used to teach that class, and she used to wear a niqab during the teaching of that class. The first point I want to make here is that whatever Prophet ﷺ has defined as the status and what are the limitations and rights of women, this is the best thing for her, and this is the best thing for the society. So if that woman was doing a niqab in the American society and teaching to police officers of America, one of the states, and they have no problem with it, and actually they respected her, following what she believed in. So there's nothing to worry about that. Most of the societies, if as Quran says that when you make hijab or it's talking about hijab. When you cover it, the reason for that is you be recognized. So you are recognized as a person who is closer to Allah, who is pious. So being recognized as that is a good thing. So don't worry about it, what people say, but in general, people respect that attitude. And even in, for example, Christian traditions, when the images of Mary, you see it is always covered, her head is always covered, and the nuns who are respected for their piety, they are always covered like that. So when they see people, I just saw an interview of a sister in Memphis, and people were asking, he was again a revert Muslimah, they were asking that, why you attracted towards Islam, and what was your perception before it? And she said, I used to think that there is a oppression for the woman in Islamic societies, but when I came closer, I understood that it's not the case. And the guy asked her, what about this, that you have to cover like that? And she said that I feel very comfortable doing that, because in this way I am recognized as what is known as a pious character, like Mary or nuns, as I mentioned to you. She said the same things. And if you see, like 100 years ago, even in the Western society, women used to be like that. Majority of the women used to cover their heads. It's just like in the last 100 years, what happened is that when they developed a kind of a feeling about religion, that they have to stay away from that for various reasons. That this is not the topic of the day, so we will stop here on this particular point, and I will move to the second point. Second point is about our topic of the day, that there are in women, and again I will give you an example from that particular gathering that we used to have, that there are some natural tendencies, that there are some natural things about genders, about male, about female, that their likings, the way they want to dress, the way they want to interact with people, their differences, they are there. And if someone tries to say, no, there is no difference, we just have to be equal, it doesn't work like that. It hasn't worked like that in the societies they try to do that. So the example from that gathering was that the officers used to come, and there were women and men, police officers. They used to come to that class, and we observed that, just quietly observed, and we discussed that among ourselves afterwards, that in the classes, when the woman officer would come, and there is no restriction, there is no segregation that women will sit here and men will sit here. But they tend to align with the woman and would sit on one side together, the woman, and the men will sit on the other side. This is the natural, inclination. You don't have any segregation, there is no call to do that, but they tend to do like that. They don't like to mix unnecessary with the men, as some societies are encouraging women to do that. But these are the natural tendencies, nature of men and women, that we need to respect when we talk about the rights of women, and when we talk about their responsibilities, all that we will continue to talk. But the third thing I want to share about this from this class is another very interesting thing, that there are certain questions with regards to women that people ask, especially they are very common in the West or in the society. They are not familiar with the Islamic culture and traditions and why such things we do. So these, sometimes they are natural, and sometimes this is just for the fun. People ask these questions. So anyway, one of the officers asked this question, and actually he was critical of the fact that why in the Muslim prayer places, masajid, the women have to be behind, as if they are some secondary citizen or something like that. On these lines his question was. And the other person who was with me, he answered the question in a very nice way, and actually with a demonstration. There used to be a coordinator for that class. His name was Steve, and he was a little bulky fellow. He was also a police officer who was coordinating with us in organizing these classes. So he asked Steve to come for a little demonstration. And he said that, Steve, you have been with us and you saw us praying many times, and we demonstrated during these sessions as well that how we pray, various actions. And he said, I just want you to face me. He was like that towards the board, and his back was towards the audience. And then he said that just repeat how we pray. And Steve started doing this because he has seen us doing that many times. And then after that, he went in the ruku like this. And then when he was in ruku, he is a bulky fellow, as I said. And this Muslim person, he said, right here, can you stop for a minute? And then Steve is stopped like this in ruku. And he went to the woman who was sitting in the audience and asked them a question. He said that, how many of you would like the men to see you in this position? And all of them said, no, we don't want to be in this position, to be seen by a man. I mean, it is like you're bending over and somebody is looking at you from the back. So he said that, yes, that is exactly the reason that we ask our sisters to stay behind in the salat. If they are in front, they don't like to be seen like that, and men get distracted. So there's no disrespect or nothing, but it is actually out of respect that we do that. It is out of respect that we keep them in a position that is very honorable to them. So this is not violating any rights or anything. So sometimes it happens that because of the cultural differences, some things people take as oppression against women, but that is not true. Now look at some specific things that come to mind, especially in the Western societies. Like the questions like why in Islam by the way, when I said that at the time of Prophet ﷺ, when he brought these rights of women, he introduced certain rights that were not available to women before that, and it never became available to the women in the non-Islamic societies for many hundred years. Example is the right of inheritance. The right of inheritance was given by Islam to women, but it was not available there before, and it was not available even in the Western societies until very recently. You will be surprised to know that even until 1982, some of the states in the United States were still debating how to formalize this inheritance for the woman. And if you go 100 years back, there was no such right available to women, neither in Europe or nor in US. So it is just last 100 years, which is a good development. We appreciate that anywhere it happens, but we say it is Islamic way that the Prophet ﷺ in 6th century introduced that. This is just one of the rights that women can inherit, women has the right to do all the economic activities, all kind of. She can have her own wealth. She can spend according to her will, which is, of course, like men, it has to be according to the Islamic way of spending, and she can inherit. But that was a great example. Other than that, she can have education, but she cannot. It's not only she can have education, but it's incumbent on all the women, like it is on men, to get educated. It is men and women both are equally encouraged by Islam to get educated from the lap of your mother to the grave. We are told that we should continue to excel ourselves in education. So there is no restriction, but in fact it is incumbent on all women and men to get educated. Religious scholarship. There is no hold of men on that. The wife of Prophet ﷺ, Aisha, she was a great scholar. She narrated many of the traditions from Prophet ﷺ. We come to know about many things in our Sharia, in our fiqh jurisprudence through her. And there are so many names. Khadija, the highest, the woman of the highest caliber, I should say, in the world, in the human history. She was the wife of Prophet ﷺ, and with her dedication and her support for this whole mission, this thing tells us that women are hand in hand with men in all avenues of this world, in economics, in education, in religious scholarship, and all that. There is no restriction. There is no restriction, and in fact, there is encouragement. But with all that, as I mentioned with some examples, that there are some tendencies, there are some, they are equal in rights, like a human. There is no distinction. They were created from the same men and women, from Adam and Eve, Adam and Hawa. And then we are all descendants, and we have the same rights as far as a human being. But there are certain physical differences between the two genders. That's where we have to look at the Sharia, how it defines your responsibility. I'm talking about the responsibility of woman and her rights, and which are a little different from in various areas. So I was giving you example of the questions that may rise in the Western minds, or even the people who are from Muslims who are influenced by some Western thoughts, that why, for example, woman, the testimony of woman is half of that of men. This is a valid question, but if you go dig into the reasons why the creators have kept it like that, because of that, I just said, the physical and psychological differences in them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want to bother the woman with all these burdens of being present in the places where crime is being committed. It is unnatural to think that in any, for example, a violent situation, that woman will be able to be witness to that. She will run away from that. She will close her eyes on that. And she's humble. She's tender. We have to treat her like that. It's not on the name of rights that you just give her equal status. It's not actually equal status, but it is putting more burden on her which she is not capable of handling. So let her do what her natural tendencies allow her to do. And as far as the status is concerned, it is equal. In fact, in certain areas, it is more than men. Look at the status of mother, that the Jannah, the paradise, is said to be under the feet of the mother. And the greatest relationship, the most respected person for a human, or for a man or a woman, is the mother. So this is the status. To conclude our topic, we said that we have to deal according to Sharia, which is based on the nature, which is based on the limitations, which is based on the strength that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have given. We are little different. So let this difference be there. Don't try to remove that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet told us, for example, that there are certain things which are not allowed for men. Men are not allowed to wear gold, for example. Men are not allowed to wear silk, for example. Women are allowed to wear all these things and do some, the clothing for some adornment. The clothing of men is different from the clothing of women. There are certain things that the Islam tells all of us to follow, but respect-wise, status-wise, although it is said that men are qawwam means the person who takes care of the woman, takes care for her food, for her safety, for her clothing, with respect. And Prophet ﷺ did not leave this topic untouched in the last sermon that he did, because he wanted to remind the ummah that these are the important things. So when he listed the important things, that about there is no, it should not be any discrimination, and points like that which were important. So he makes sure that he mentioned woman there, and he said, fear Allah for the woman, because you have rights on them and they have rights on you, and you have to treat them with kindness. As I said, they are tender, they are loving, they are feminine. So they have to treat it like that, with respect and honor. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المؤمنين والمؤمنات.
اسلام ایٹ اے گلاس واز براٹ ٹو یو بائی امریکہ میں مسلمانوں کی نمائندہ تنظیم اسلامک سرکل آف نارتھ امریکہ سماجی شعور سے آگاہی ہو یا اسلامی طرز زندگی کا درس، اقنا نے ہمیشہ اپنا مؤثر کردار ادا کیا۔ کار خیر میں ہمارا ساتھ دیجیے۔ فون 718-658-1199